Day one of part two took us northbound along the stunning Oregon coast. We started off at Brookings Harbor, taking in the boats and the Pelican Bay Lighthouse, built in 1999 and one of the newest lighthouses on the Oregon coast, still serving today as an official aid to navigation for the U.S. Coast Guard. Our second stop on day one was the breathtaking Samuel H. Boardman State Scenic Corridor, a 12-mile stretch of Highway 101 just north of Brookings. This drive is filled with rugged cliffs, sea stacks, and hidden beaches, including famous spots like Arch Rock and the Natural Bridges. It's considered one of the most dramatic stretches of the entire Oregon coast. Our third highlight on day one was the impressive Thomas Creek Bridge. At 345 feet high, it's the tallest bridge in Oregon, stretching nearly 1,000 feet across a deep canyon. Built in 1961, it still carries Highway 101 and offers sweeping views of the forested cliffs and the Pacific beyond. We made a one-night stop at Harris Beach State Park, just north of Brookings. With its sea stacks, wide sandy beach, and peaceful campground, it was a beautiful place to rest. Our itinerary along the coast was packed, and we pushed north quickly with only one night in each park. Looking back, we'd recommend staying at least 2 nights in each to truly take in the scenery and relax. Day two began with us continuing northbound along Highway 101, ready to explore more of the Oregon coast. We passed through Gold Beach, a town at the mouth of the Rogue River, and made a stop at the Cape Blanco Lighthouse, the oldest standing lighthouse on the Oregon coast, first lit in 1870. Cape Blanco Lighthouse, perched on the westernmost point in Oregon. Cape Blanco Lighthouse is the oldest standing lighthouse on the coast. Sitting more than 240 feet above the sea, it also holds the title of the highest lighthouse in Oregon, with incredible views of the Pacific Ocean and the rugged cliffs below. Just inland from the lighthouse, we visited the Hughes Historic House, built in 1898 for dairy farmers Patrick and Jane Hughes. Designed in the elegant Queen Anne Victorian style, the 11-room home was incredibly impressive for its time, especially in such a remote coastal location. The Hughes family ran one of the largest dairies on the southern Oregon coast, selling their butter to markets as far away as San Francisco. From there, we headed into Old Town Bandon, where we met up with my niece and her beautiful family. We enjoyed a wonderful lunch at the Bandon Fish Market Chowder House, one of the most popular spots in the area. A little trivia about the town. Bandon is known as the cranberry capital of Oregon, producing some of the state's best cranberries since the early 1900s. After lunch, we went down to the beach to see the famous rock formations, including Face Rock, said in Native American legend to be the face of a princess turned to stone, and the nearby Wizard's Hat, a pointed sea stack rising out of the surf. Before ending the day, we made one last stop at the Coquille River Lighthouse, first lit in 1896 to guide mariners safely across the bar into Bandon's harbor. At just 40 feet tall, it's one of Oregon's smaller lighthouses, but its riverside setting makes it especially picturesque. From there, we drove into Bullard's Beach State Park, where we set up our spot for the night, tucked among the coastal pines with the sound of the ocean just beyond. The next day, we woke up early and hit the road. Our first stop was a short drive out to the Cape Arago Lighthouse, which was first lit in 1866 to guide ships into Coos Bay. Today, it's closed to the public and sits on Chiefs Island, but we were still able to capture a nice picture. Our next stop was the U.S. Coast Guard's Umpqua River Lighthouse, which has stood watch over the Oregon coast since 1894. Its distinctive first-order Fresnel lens casts alternating red and white beams visible for over 20 miles at sea. It's the only lighthouse in Oregon with a colored lens pattern, and it remains an active aid to navigation even today. Nearby, the Umpqua River Lighthouse Museum tells the story of how U.S. soldiers once kept watch over this stretch of coastline during World War II. We stopped into the gift shop by the museum, where the lady working told us that gray whales had been spotted earlier that morning just offshore. She mentioned they seemed to be arriving a little early this year. We made a stop at the Sea Lion Caves, America's largest sea cave, located just north of Florence. Unfortunately, the sea lions weren't inside during our visit, so we snapped a few photos and then moved on. From the overlook by the Sea Lion Caves, we could see the Heceta Head Lighthouse. First lit in 1894, it's one of the most photographed lighthouses in the entire United States, and its powerful beam reaches 21 miles out to sea, the strongest light on the Oregon coast. We drove down to the state park planning to hike up to the lighthouse, but it was just too crowded that day. Being a weekend, the area was packed. I was really looking forward to that hike, but it just wasn't doable. Maybe next time, because this is definitely a spot worth returning to. We made it to our next stop, South Beach State Park, where we stayed for the next 2 nights. Here, we finally slowed down a bit, taking beach walks, watching sunsets, and just enjoying the fresh ocean air with our pups. They were especially happy to be in the cool coastal temperatures instead of the boiling heat we'd left behind in Nevada and Arizona. While using South Beach State Park as our base, we visited the Yaquina Head Lighthouse. Standing 93 feet tall and first lit in 1873, it's the tallest lighthouse in Oregon. We were able to go inside, see how it operates, and learn more about its history, which made the visit even more special. After leaving the lighthouse, we walked down to the rocky beach below, where the sound of the tumbling stones and the view back toward the lighthouse made it unforgettable. And here, we were lucky enough to catch a glimpse of a couple of whales offshore. We heard about Agate Beach and wanted to see what it was all about. When we got there, not a single agate was in sight. We were told that agates are still here, but they're buried deep under the sand after years of powerful coastal storms. Agate Beach has long been a popular spot for rockhounds, especially after big winter storms when the waves wash stones to the surface. Besides its famous agates, the beach is also known for its wide, sandy shoreline stretching for miles, making it one of the most accessible and family-friendly beaches on the central Oregon coast. From Agate Beach, we set out to find the famous original Moe's restaurant. And we were successful. We enjoyed a wonderful meal of crispy fish and chips, along with a hearty bowl of their signature chowder. After refueling, we headed out to see the Devil's Punch Bowl, a collapsed sea cave where waves crash and swirl inside the natural rock formation. This was also the only afternoon we had rain on the trip. A short little shower, nothing big for someone who lived in Washington for years. And after 25 years in the desert, we actually welcomed it. We passed by the Tillamook Air Museum, housed in a massive World War II blimp hangar built in 1942. At over 1,000 feet long, it's one of the largest wooden clear-span structures in the world. And today, it's home to vintage aircraft and aviation history. We also drove past the famous Tillamook Creamery, a farmer-owned cooperative founded in 1909 and known worldwide for its cheese and ice cream. Their visitor center now attracts more than 1 million visitors each year. We set up base at Nehalem Bay State Park. Sorry for the mispronunciation if that is incorrect for the next 2 nights. From here, we were able to slow down a little and enjoy the local beaches and sunsets while also exploring the nearby towns of Seaside and Cannon Beach. Our pup Nova couldn't get enough of the beach. She almost looked like she was smiling as we watched the beautiful sunset. The next morning, we drove into the town of Seaside. First, we revisited a couple of places I remembered from childhood trips with my parents and grandparents. The old Boardwalk Motel had been remodeled, but still looked much the same. We stopped by the Seaside Aquarium and then walked down to see the carousel. I remember riding it as a kid. Back then, it was probably just 25 cents, and today it's $5. Pretty cool that it's still there after all these years. We walked the Seaside Boardwalk, taking in the ocean views and trying to track down an old donut shop my mom remembered from years ago. After about an hour of searching and strolling down memory lane, several locals pointed us to Dundee's Donuts. So that's where we ended up getting our donut in Seaside. From Seaside, we got back on the road and headed into Cannon Beach, famous for its Haystack Rock, a 235-foot sea stack that's one of the most photographed landmarks on the Oregon coast. Of course, we had to grab an ice cream cone. It's a Cannon Beach tradition. Then we walked down to the sand to take in the views of Haystack Rock and, just offshore, the Tillamook Rock Lighthouse, perched dramatically on a rugged sea stack locals call Terrible Tilly. We departed Cannon Beach for our final drive down the coast and made our way back to Nehalem Bay State Park for the night. We settled into our spot and took in one last coastal sunset. A perfect way to end this stretch of our journey. As we wrapped up our time on the Oregon coast, we couldn't have asked for better weather. We picked a wonderful time of year. The crowds weren't too big, and we were able to enjoy the parks and beaches without feeling rushed. Oregon has some really nice state parks along the coast with all the amenities we needed. The parks had everything from campsites to trails and easy beach access, which made traveling here especially enjoyable. If there's one thing we'd change, it would be learning to slow down a bit more instead of rushing through such a beautiful stretch of coastline. That's a lesson we'll carry forward as we continue our journey inland. As you can see, our pup Nova wanted to make one last trip down to the beach. She's truly been a changed dog on this adventure, taking in the fresh air, the open space, and the cooler coastal temperatures. Off we went inland, passing quickly through Portland on our way to cross the border into eastern Washington. We passed through the Dalles and made a stop at the Stonehenge Memorial near Goldendale, a full-scale replica of England's Stonehenge built in 1918 as a tribute to local soldiers who lost their lives in World War I. We visited this site a few times over the years, and it always leaves an impression. It's amazing how many people drive past without even knowing this memorial is here. The Stonehenge Memorial is a full-scale replica of England's Stonehenge, dedicated on July 4, 1918, as the very first World War I memorial in the United States. It is said to be one of the most unique war memorials in the country, both for its design and for its incredible setting overlooking the Columbia River, one of my favorite views in this area. We pulled into Yakima, Washington, setting up base at Sportsman State Park. While in town, we took in a few sights, visited family, and brought Mom to the legendary Miners Drive-In restaurant. Founded in 1948, Miners is famous for its gigantic burgers and overflowing baskets of fries. Mom was so surprised when she saw the size of her meal. It was definitely worth the stop. After a wonderful visit in Yakima, we departed for one of my favorite spots in Idaho. Out of respect for our family's privacy, I won't disclose the exact location. Only that it's along the Clearwater River, and it's a truly beautiful place. We enjoyed home-cooked meals, went out to dinner, and visited the Heart of the Monster. According to Nez Perce legend, this is the place where their people originated, making it one of the most important cultural sites in the region. After 2 days of much-needed relaxation, it was time to get back on the road. We set off early with one destination in mind, but as travel often goes, we ended up somewhere else entirely, McDermott, Nevada. It was nothing more than a stopping place for the evening, a small town located right on the border of Oregon and Nevada. We still have a few final destinations before arriving home, but today we decided to take a detour to Virginia City, Nevada. Out of all the years we've traveled through this area, I had never been, so now it's officially checked off my list of places I've visited. Sitting at an elevation of about 6,200 feet, Virginia City is a historic mining town that boomed during the Comstock-Lode Silver Strike of 1859, one of the richest discoveries in U.S. history. Once a bustling frontier city, it was home to thousands of miners, saloons, and even Mark Twain during his early writing career. While there, we took a historic train ride through the hills. It was especially fun since our 3 Shih Tzus were able to go along with us. I think they actually loved the ride. The conductor's face was priceless as each of us boarded with a pup in tow. And I just have to say, we weren't the only dog people bringing their fur babies along for the adventure. We wrapped up the evening enjoying one last night in the cooler mountain temperatures before continuing on our journey. The next day, we departed Virginia City via Main Street and began our descent into the lower elevations, making our way toward Manzanar National Historic Site in California. The drive took us through many small towns, all in the shadow of the Sierra Nevada mountains until we finally arrived. Manzanar is one of 10 camps where Japanese Americans were forcibly relocated during World War II. At its peak, more than 10,000 people lived here behind barbed wire, making it one of the most powerful and sobering places to visit in the region. As you enter Manzanar, you first see a circle of 10 stones with small plaques, each engraved with the name of one of the internment camps across the United States. Manzanar itself was arranged into 36 blocks, and in most blocks up to 300 people crowded into 14 barracks. At first, each barracks was divided into 4 rooms with 8 people per room. Everyone ate in a communal mess hall, washed their clothes in a public laundry, and shared latrines and showers with little privacy. An ironing room and a recreation hall were used for classes, shops, and churches. Over time, families personalized their spaces, and the barracks gradually evolved into distinct neighborhoods and communities. At the far end of the camp stands the Manzanar Cemetery Monument, an obelisk built in 1943 that remains one of the site's most recognized and moving landmarks. Standing before the monument was a powerful experience. It's a solemn reminder of the lives disrupted here and of the importance of remembering this chapter of history so that it is never repeated. This visit was a powerful and somber experience. I read in a pamphlet, one camp, Manzanar, over 10,000 lives, over 10,000 stories. A World War II camp of Japanese Americans and Japanese immigrants, a stark reminder of hardship, resilience, and the importance of never forgetting. We continued on to Death Valley National Park. We didn't explore much this time since we've all been here several times before. This was simply our route into Nevada for the last night of our road trip. Death Valley is home to Badwater Basin, the lowest point in North America at 282 feet below sea level. We didn't make it all the way down to Badwater on this trip, but on our route, we did dip below negative 196 feet. I started snapping pictures of the GPS as the elevation dropped, but eventually gave up. After leaving Death Valley, we made our way into Nevada for our final night on the road. The next morning, we enjoyed a nice breakfast before setting out on the last stretch. We crossed from Nevada into Arizona and finally rolled back into our home in Phoenix. This trip was such a special journey. Coast to desert, mountains to valleys, with so many memories made along the way. I'm truly thankful that we were all able to take this trip together and create lasting memories. From the towering Redwoods to the rugged Oregon coastline, the quiet rivers of Idaho, and the stark beauty of Death Valley, each stop told its own story. We continue to learn so much traveling in our van. Thankfully, we didn't have any real issues with the van or its systems. If we did, it was more likely operator error than anything else. Thank you for following along on our adventures. Don't forget to live life and enjoy. Until next time.